Hey, honey,
Yes, Barry?
let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Fascina el viento, este ritmo de palmas, sin mi naturaleza, hasta encontrar la playa. Por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta.
Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. I am your host, Barry Kessler, and I'm just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination. Maybe it's even yours, and that's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. That music you're just listening to is performed by Alberto Perez. And, of course, Alberto is the owner of the Lapa Lapa group of restaurants here in Puerto Vallarta. Those are the Lapa Lapa, the El Dorado restaurant, and at night that El Dorado Beach Club transforms into the ever-so-romantic Vista Grill with the dramatic views of the Los Muertos Pier, all lit up at night in beautiful colors. And, of course, at Lapa Lapa, you can enjoy that same view of the Los Muertos Pier all day long for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, seated with your toes in the sand right at the water's edge. It's so romantic. It's so Puerto Vallarta, my friends. This week is part 2 of my day trip to El Tuito and Mayto and Tehuamixtle and that incredible taxi ride that I took from El Tuito to Mayto with my new friend, taxi driver Javier Arias. But first, a little news about what's going on in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico this week, the 21st of February, 2018. Puerto Vallarta actually set the record for the most people having a cup of coffee at the same time, you guys. It really happened. The goal was for 500 participants to come together on the Malecon and beat the previous record that was held by Germany of 368 coffee drinkers. Well, they did it. Not quite 500, but pretty close. 492 actually signed up for the event, and there were far more people than that on the Malecon. But it was pretty cool. There were tables set up on the Malecon near the lighthouse, and there was a big stage set up as well. Kind of like what Wario told us about from Tres Cuartos. He was talking about this in the conversation that we had a couple weeks ago. They had set up this stage over for the New Year's celebration on the Malecon, and they did the same in that same kind of area right there. The participants had custom-made T-shirts marking the event, and they had their own coffee mugs, and they had a chance to be part of Puerto Vallarta history. I got some great photos from our friend of the show, and friend of mine, Maria Jose Zoria Alcala, the owner of the Belmar Hotel in Puerto Vallarta, that beautiful, beautiful white hotel. And if you haven't heard that interview that I had with Maria some time back, you really need to. She's an incredible woman and a real gift to Vallarta. And the Belmar Hotel was one of the proud sponsors of the event. And I have to tell you, I've got some great, great photos of her and of the event that she gave me permission to use. So go to the show notes for this episode and have a look and see what it looks like when Puerto Vallarta breaks the Guinness Book of World Records. So anyway, this got me to thinking, what other records have been set here in Mexico? And I was surprised to find that indeed Mexicans love to attempt to break world records. They love to set them, really, they do. And they're kind of got a pretty good imagination about it too. But before we do that, what is this Guinness anyway? What is this all about? According to the wiki pages, on November 10th in 1951, Sir Hugh Beaver, then the managing director of the Guinness breweries, I knew alcohol was involved here, went on a shooting party in Wexford, Ireland. After missing a shot at a golden pulver, he became involved in an argument over which was the fastest game bird in Europe, the golden pulver or the red grouse. Indeed, it's actually the pulver. That evening at Castlebridge House, he realized that it was impossible to confirm in any reference books whether the golden pulver was Europe's fastest game bird or not, and Beaver knew that there must be numerous other questions debated nightly throughout Ireland and abroad, but there was no book in the world with which to settle these arguments about records. So he realized then and there that a book supplying these answers to this sort of question might prove successful. Anyhow, in the long run, he produced the Guinness World Records books, and they have become household name, the global leader in world records. The book has gone to become a world record breaker on its own, with sales of more than 100 million copies in 100 different countries, 37 languages. Guinness World Records is the world's best-selling copyrighted book ever, it says. And anyway, as I was saying, Mexicans love to set world records. And they include, I just figured I'd go on this, Mexican diet here, the largest serving of guacamole. Only in Mexico, right? In 2017, a wholesaler in Mexico, the Empacadora de Aguacate Sierra del Tigre, mixed up a serving that weighed 6,569.77 pounds in Concepcion de Buenos Aires, Jalisco, Mexico. Made it with 25,200 avocados, 3,500 tomatoes, 3,000 lemons, and 750 onions, and 90 bundles of cilantro. The largest burrito, of course, came from Mexico as well. It weighed 5,799 kilograms, or 12,785.576 pounds. It was produced by Canarac of La Paz, in La Paz, Baja California, Mexico, on November 3rd, 2010. This burrito was made from one single flour tortilla, which weighed over 2 tons and measured 2.4 kilometers. Whoa! That's like 1.5 miles long, you guys. The filling was fish with onion, chili, and refried beans, typical to the region of Baja, Mexico. 54 restaurants took part. In total, there were around 3,000 volunteers, and the machine that was used to roll out the tortilla was specially designed and adapted by Blas Avila. It took 9.5 hours to cover the full 2.4 kilometers. Incredible. Now here's one that doesn't have to do with food. The most people kissing simultaneously. This romantic record was organized by the government of Mexico City, and it took place at the Zócalo in the Historical Center on February 14th, 2009. The number of participants reached 39,879. Now, it was an odd number because kisses between more than 2 people were allowed, such as families. Can anybody say mononucleosis? I can't. Okay, sorry. All right. Now here's an odd one. The largest Thriller dance routine. After the King of Pop left this world, thousands of fans gathered at Mexico City's Monument to the Revolution on August 29th, 2009 to perform the largest dance routine for Michael Jackson's 1984 hit Thriller, with 13,597 participants. This event was organized by the city government's Instituto de la Juventud, or Institute of Youth, and I have a video of it on the website if you want to see this epic dance routine. It's pretty cool. All right, now the largest Day of the Dead altar. Mexico is well known for its Day of the Dead celebration, so of course it has to hold the record for the largest altar commemorating this date, which measured 6,006 feet. It was set up on October 31st, 2014 at the Fiesta Cala de Veras, hosted by Mexico City's Plaza Mexico Bull Ring. All right, here's one that's pretty cool. The most Mentos and soda fountains. With the viral trend of making soda fountains with Mentos candies, Mexican confectionery company Chupa Chups Industrial Mexicana and its Italian counterpart, Perfetti Van Melle, organized this grand simultaneous soda fountain and Mentos event at the International Balloon Festival in León, Guanajuato, on November 15th, 2014. There were 4,334 active fountains simultaneously gushing. Okay. What about alcohol? I mean, we're talking Guinness, So the largest tequila tasting was set not in Mexico, not even in Jalisco, you guys, but in Canada. Can you believe it? 862 people participated, and it was put on by two companies in Canada on the 19th of September 2013. So what I want to know is what gives you guys. And you could definitely get twice as many takers in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Come on. Hello. Jalisco. Come on. Does anybody want to pick up the phone and call the town of Tequila and say, you guys, Canada, really? All right. What about Mexico's favorite other drink, the margarita? Not so fast, Mexico. Once again, you were snookered this time by Las Vegas, Nevada, in a joint called Margaritaville by some bum who owns it named Jimmy Buffett. I don't know if you guys know that guy. Anyway, this is a gold mine on the Strip in Las Vegas. And the Guinness World Record for the largest margarita is 8,500 U.S. gallons on July 17th, 2012. So how about that? The most expensive bottle of tequila, there is a world record for that, $225,000. It's not because of what was in it. It was because of what it was made with. It was platinum and white gold, and it was sold by a Tequila Ley. The bottle was filled with a unique 6-year-old aged 100% blue agave tequila worth $2,500 US, but that bottle was expensive because it was made from platinum and white gold. Now, how about some drinking records? Let's talk about the most tequila shots consumed. Here's one from the Associated Press. Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. 1 person is dead, and 3 are gravely ill following a tequila drinking competition in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. The winner of the contest died. Officials say Ricardo Ivan Garcia, who was 21, drank more than 50 shots of tequila Sunday night at a disco. The prize, besides death, was 10,000 pesos, which is about $330. The prosecutor says the man died of apparent heart failure brought on by alcohol poisoning. 3 other contestants remain in serious condition in the hospital. Okay, here's another. Maybe I better stop here. Let me just say this as just a warning to everybody that it's not good to drink huge, copious amounts of tequila shots or any other kind of alcoholic beverage. So I am not in any way trying to coax any of you to pick up a drink or 10 or 20, okay? All right, now, let's get back to this. Frenchman sets bar record by drinking 56 shots. And guess what happened next? Well, he died, of course, because it was about 46 more shots than anybody should ever try to do in succession. And here it is from Yahoo News. French police opened an investigation on Wednesday following the death of a man in his 50s after he downed 56 shots during a drinking competition. The man, who was not named because he was a total idiot, was attempting to beat the previous record of 55 shots in a bar in Clermont-Ferrand in central France on Friday. The man was driven home in a drunken stupor, and emergency services took him in later that night. He died the next day in the hospital after falling into a coma and suffering a heart attack. His daughter, a 21-year-old student, was the one who told the reporters. How lovely. Oh my gosh. Let's find out how many shots of tequila it would take to kill you. It's a little bit different for everybody. We're not built the same, but the blood alcohol level of 0.34 is a magic number of sorts, according to a lot of the charts. It's the upper limit on the borderline between stupor and death, and it would take an average-sized American male approximately 14 shots to get there. Now, some of you might remember the notorious 16 vodka breakfast that was enjoyed by Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham on the day that he died. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you didn't hear about the story. Well, this is actually very educational. His breakfast may have been a punishing dosage, but it was just a pregame for a guy with a big, serious tolerance. According to the rock historian Mick Wall, he says he kept working and drinking that entire day in 1980, eventually consuming a total of 40 drinks, only to lie down that night and choke to death on his own vomit. Nice. Okay, where were we? Yes. Felicidades, Puerto Vallarta, for setting the record for the most coffee drinkers. Maybe that tequila thing is just a little bit too wild for this town. Less vomit, for sure. Just saying. All right, let's get on with the show. Last week, we took a bus from Puerto Vallarta to the town of El Tuito. And if you haven't heard that episode, then you need to listen to it for sure. And just go back one episode, and I interviewed the owners of a new B&B, La Jolla de Tuito, Maddie and Jesse. And then I had a wonderful conversation with a lady, Maria C. Santander, from Galleria Copelia. And once again, if you go to my show notes from that episode, and actually I'll have some in this episode too, you will find maps and directions, but I'll give them to you again on how to get to El Tuito from Puerto Vallarta. You need to get, first of all, to the corner of Venustiano Carranza and Aguacate on the south side of Puerto Vallarta, where the bus for the Botanical Garden and El Tuito is going to be sitting there. It's going to say Botanical Garden on it. It will say El Tuito on it. It'll be very easy to see. It's going to be pointing down south on Aguacate, across from the Kiosco convenience store. And the bus sits there and fills up and then heads south past Mismaloya, past Boca de Tomatlan, and then it heads up east to the Botanical Gardens for the first stop, and then to the town of El Tuito. The bus stops on the highway outside of town, turns into town, all the way down to the main square, and stops, lets everybody off, takes on new passengers for the ride back to Puerto Vallarta. It's a real simple trip. It's about an hour long, and it's only about 32 pesos, and that's like $1.70, you guys, so that's pretty good. Now, once again, I urge you guys to listen to last week's episode to see what's going on in El Tuito. And I was telling you also last week about Javier, the taxi driver, who picked me up from the La Jolla de Tuito and drove me to Maria's place. I basically contracted him to take me to Mayto and to Tehuamixtle if he would return back to Maria's place in about an hour. And Javier said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. So he drove me over there. We had a nice talk. His English was great. And so anyway, he dropped me off at Maria's. We had a nice talk. So once again, go and listen to that if you haven't. Javier came back, And I said goodbye to Maria, packed my stuff up, and left her and her beautiful gallery. Hopped in the front seat of Javier's taxi, and then off we went. I was really, really hungry, you guys. I hadn't had anything to eat all day except for some peanuts, and I had a little bit of bread that I picked up over at the market. So I begged Javier just to stop for some food before we hit the road to Mayto. And he pointed to a restaurant and said they make great tortas. So I ordered one for myself. I can't even remember the name of it. I asked Javier if he wanted to eat, and he said no. So anyway, I waited for the sandwich, and it was a great price. Took it and sat myself down with Javier and started stuffing my face with this delicious torta, and he started talking to me about Mayto. And it was really hard for me to keep from pulling out my recording equipment right then and there, but I was so hungry. And really, the plan was and I asked Javier if he would just, because he was from Mayto, if he would just introduce me to some interesting characters that he might know there, someone who might run a hotel or someone who, just might be interesting to talk to. And so he said, sure, no problem. I know a whole bunch of people there. So we go down this winding, paved 2-lane road. Now, I say paved with some trepidation because there's potholes along the way. And Javier knew where each and every one of those potholes was. He did his best to make the ride as easy as possible. The terrain around was lush. It was green, very hilly, similar to where I live in Southern California, except for, I don't know, it was really green. The ride took about 45 minutes, and Javier was telling me these great stories and giving me just terrific information all along the way. And I kept telling him, Javier, hold on, hold that thought, man. Because or he would say something. I would go look at him and go, hey, we really need to talk about that. Anyway, during the interview, which I did record on the ride back from Mayto, it does sound like I'm prompting him from time to time, and it's just because I'm trying to get that same story that I already heard on tape. It's not always easy when you're doing interviews. Sometimes, and I think I've talked about this before, you will be talking to somebody and you do a good interview, and then you turn off the tape and start putting everything away, and then the real interview comes. And you're wondering, where was that? But Javier was great, and he gave me a terrific interview. Anyway, we drove to Mayto and all the way to the beach, and it was a beautiful sight, just gorgeous, just virgin beach spread out in front of us, beautiful rocky cove on one side. We stopped in a small hotel, walked into the bar area, and it was really nice. It was a neat place, and there were I would say an eclectic group of folks there who were staying there. But here's the thing: the owner of this place didn't want to have anything to do with me. He didn't want to tell my listeners about the place. He didn't want to talk. I don't know if it was maybe because he thought maybe he would do more business. I don't know. Maybe he thought I wanted money, or he thought I wanted to get, free lodging or booze, or I don't know. Who knows? But one thing was for sure with this guy. He's no interviews. So, yeah, I don't know what to say. Do I leave it at that, or do I tell you guys what place it was? So here's the deal. I have pictures of the place in the show notes. You can take a look at it, and you can see where this place is. One of the guests allowed me to have a look in his room and take pictures, so I have those in the show notes as well. So have a look at those. The room was nice. There was nothing going on. It was just a bed and a bathroom. It was very, very plain, but it was very clean. But once again, I'm not going to tell you what place it is. You're just going to have to look. I mean, I wouldn't want to upset this guy and give him more business. God forbid. Anyway, we got back in the taxi, and Javier was pissed. He was really mad. He didn't like the way the hotel owner had talked to me. So I'm looking at him, Javier, man, don't worry. I'm a real estate agent. I get rejection every day. It's part of my job. I mean, every rejection gets me closer to the next yes. But he wasn't having any of that. No. He did not like it. He was mad. Javier, man, don't sweat it. I have you. I don't need him. So from there, we visited Hotel Mayto, which was a beautiful property. Looked like it was gorgeous. I didn't get a chance to go inside of any of the rooms, but the grounds are really, really nice. They have a beautiful pool area, and of course the beach just spreads right out in front of the hotel. There's a whole lot of other hotels and bed and breakfasts in Mayto. I wouldn't say a lot. There are probably about a half a dozen others. But I would say that if you are looking for the deserted beach experience, just beautiful water, Mayto would be a good choice for you guys. Now, once again, just look at my photos, boys and girls, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Then we got back in the car, and he took me up the road just a little bit to the next bay up, to the town of Tehuamixtle. And this is a sweet little fishing village where there was this big restaurant called Candies. And oh my goodness, you guys, if you go to Tehuamixtle, you got to eat at Candies. The seafood is to die for. I mean, there's other restaurants there, but don't bother. Just eat at Candies. Anyway, Javier, he points over to this there's like a shark statue. He says, hey, I made that. And I'm like, really? And he says, yeah. I mean, okay, man, get in front of there. So I took a picture of him right in front of this shark. Right there. Look for it in my show notes, okay? He showed me what was left of an old building where there was a crane. It used to unload the steamers, the steamships of their cargo that was on the way to the mines. And there were people playing in the bay, kids playing in the water. There were fishing boats bobbing in the water. It was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sight. Just a cozy little place. It was a perfect place for lunch and for a few adult beverages before heading back to El Tuito. We stayed for just long enough for a couple pictures, and then Javier allowed me to roam around for a while and started looking at my phone and looking at the time and said we better get back before I miss that bus back to Puerto Vallarta. So we got back in the cab, and I whipped out my recorder, and I turned her on, and I started asking Javier questions. Now, you're going to get an idea about the condition of the road as you listen to the recording. It's not recorded in my studio here in Los Angeles, and it's not recorded on a quiet beach, but instead it's on the road from Mayto to El Tuito in a taxi cab where we have the windows down. Now, I was able to isolate some of that sound and was able to remove a lot of the worst of it from the recording. But you are going to be able to hear the condition of the road. And once you play around with audio, sometimes it kind of messes a little bit with our voices. And maybe we'll sound like we're in a tin can a couple of times. But actually, it's a whole lot better, you guys, than it was. And if you guys are any of you guys listening to this with earbuds on, hang on. Get ready, okay? It's not going to be pretty. Anyway, let's go ahead and hear from Javier Arias and get in that taxi from Mayto to El Tuito. All right, I'm in a taxi cab, and we're heading back from Mayto, and I'm with my new friend, Javier. Javier, what's your name? Your last name?
Arias.
Javier Arias, what do you do?
I'm a taxi driver for the last 15 years. I'm from Mayto, but I'm living in Tuito right now.
Okay, so you are now. You were explaining to me why it was that you moved to El Tuito from this beautiful place, Mayto.
Well, I have to move because we're very like arranged. We don't have schools. We don't have a lot of opportunities to survive, especially with the schools for my kids. So it's one of the reasons that I left this beautiful place. That probably a couple of years I'll be back to enjoy.
Yeah, because kids grow up, right?
Oh yeah.
Thank God for that.
They all grow up, so I have to come back to where I'm born. You know.
Yeah. So you are how old are you?
I'm 50 years old right now.
50 years old. So you've seen a lot of things happening here in 50
years. I know since we started living here, we don't have any communication. So we have to go sometimes horse riding or mules to get all our products to survive. 8 hours to 10 horse riding. And sometimes we stay in Tuito to take a rest and come back next day, another 8 hours, sometimes more because it's raining, it's cold, and to have food for our families. And we, plus that, we make some trips for some other people who live here. So, but we have to go because there's no transportation at all, but mules or horses, that's it.
So no roads good enough for cars, in other words.
The first cars we came in, it was in 1974. One of the first cars that we come in, and we take the same time as in a mule, 8 to 10 hours, and was a very tired drive to people, to all of us, because we all tired. It was very bumpy, and we thirsty, we hungry, so we have to get here at time, because at nighttime it was dangerous sometimes because it's a lot of animals, wild animals like cougars, panthers, even lions.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're not big as in Africa, you know, they're the size of the dog. But if they will find you one in the way, or you go to the woods, to the restroom, you will find one. And they will scare you. You will be scared too.
Yeah.
Of course, you run away, but it's a reaction of both, you know.
Yeah.
He runs one way, you runs another way, but you have the feeling it's going to attack you. Probably never attacked me, one of those, but I still have that scare in my mind. If I found one animal like that, that will attack me.
Yeah.
It's what I think. Ale.
Hola. It's kind of funny, you guys, when we're driving around here, Javier knows everybody. I mean, everybody is related to Javier around here. Hey, that's my cousin, that's my aunt, that's my cousin over there, that's my cousin.
Everybody, yeah. It's because I grew up here, I'm born here. Even my kids grew up here for the last... Well, I have 7 to 8 years in Tuito, and my little kid is my little daughter right now is 5. It's gonna be 6 years old next May. So I'm 7 years in Tuito, so I really miss that place. I really miss it.
You need to get that?
No.
Go ahead. It's all right.
No, I can do nothing about it.
Okay. All right. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about how you guys were before there was a road. You guys were like living off the land, right? You guys were making your own stuff.
We have to cut off all the trees, clean up the surface of the land or the field. So that gives us a chance to grow up beans and corn. It's the most popular things that we eat here. All the rest of the things, food, we catch them from the sea, or we go hunting. We go hunting. For us, it's no problem because we hunt for hungry, you know, not for business or hobby or sport, because we don't have sometimes nothing to eat.
Yeah.
But the corn, sometimes if we don't have rain, we don't have no corn or beans.
Wow.
So we have to live sometimes couple of months just to eating fish and dry fish, you know.
So
and sometimes, dry meat. We salted we put salt in the meat or the fish. We put it to dry, and then we cook it not a stove. We call a horno.
Uh-huh.
Then we make out a mug and put some dry wood inside, and that's the way we cook it.
Smoke it.
Yeah. And sometimes but we try to have beans all the time because we grow the beans for ourselves. We not sell that. We probably lend a bag of 50 pounds or 50 kilos to my cousin, to my aunt, because she run out.
Uh-huh.
She do the same with us, but we are big families, you know. I have 8 brothers and 5 sisters, plus my mom and my dad, so we eat a lot.
So I know why that is, because you guys didn't have television way back when. I know why.
Probably yes. My dad, he was busy all the time.
Yeah, go dad, go dad.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, it's normally the way of living before, and right now we're in a better move because now we have a road, and 1 hour we can be in Tuito, and you can go back and forth in 2 hours and bring all your groceries maybe in 4 hours to have all what you need. But we're still growing corn and beans. We didn't lose that tradition. It's a normal thing to do here in this area. Plus, you know, papaya, coconuts or watermelons, tomatoes, black-eyed beans, and pineapple, papaya. This is the most common here in this area.
Well, that's crazy because, it sounds like paradise with all those yummy things going on there.
Yes, it is, because for us, like I said before, I'll still missing my place once that I'll go home for a couple of days and I come back to my hometown. I don't want to leave because I'm still missing that area, you know. It's like even if you're in paradise, for me, it's normal to see it because I grew up here. But when you have 15 days, 20 days not coming, you really miss the place. And then you say, oh, wow, what am I doing in Tuito, you know? But I have to be there because of school. Probably, like I said, right now, they have a school, a few schools now, and I'll be back for sure in a few years. I'm not saying 5 or 10, but I think in 5, that'd be nice.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know that your kids have friends in Tuito, and so they probably like to stay where they are more than likely. Eh?
I think the older kids, my older kids, they will want to stay once they go to the preparatory school or college. Maybe some of those they probably want to stay in Tuito, but eventually they will come back to Mayto. I mean, I know because they'll miss a lot too. The first month when I moved to Tuito, it was very hard for them because they cry every day.
Yeah.
Dad, I want to go back. And they told me all the time, Dad, I want to go back. Even my wife, one time he was crying because she don't know what to do. And she said, what we should do? I said, well, we decide to come here to Tuito, so we're not going back until we settle down, and then we think about it, because we think a lot about to go to Tuito. So I know the life in Mayto is gorgeous, it's beautiful, but my kids need to go to school. So it's one of the main reasons that are really in Tuito, because other than that, like Fernando said, money for us is not that necessary, because you have the way of living already. You grew up with that. It's normal for us. If you have money today, it's good. If you have money, if you don't have money tomorrow, it's good. You still eating from the natural, you know. We go fishing. We know how to fish. We know how to swim. Even my 5-year daughter, she know how to swim already. She was 3 when she started swimming by herself.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
It is amazing. So, all right. Let's talk a little bit about, we're going to come back to Mayto in a minute. Let's talk a little bit about where you're living right now, El Tuito.
Well, Tuito, it's a very old town too. Like maybe, I'm not sure, but I think it's like 300 years old. I think it's older than the Puerto Vallarta area because it used to be an hacienda, like I told you before.
Yeah.
A big hacienda with more than 1,000 acres. That belongs to the hacienda guy. They're called, and the nickname they call hacendado. It was the name for all the people who have a monopoly of or land. So all the people come or live in those days from the cattle. They milk the cows. They grow up coffee. It's coffee, sugar cane, and chocolate, cacao, cotton, and they, of course, they milk the cows, sell the milk, and make cheese, panela, and dry cheese. That's how the people survive. And this guy has like 20 little villages. They all work for him. So in the hacienda, they have a big store, to all the workers. They go week after week to buy their groceries, whatever they need. So in the end of the week, the boss, he gets what they owe him for the groceries. So he was making a lot of money because he owns a store. He owns a property. So he really owns the workers. And we don't have no place to go. Well, those people don't have place to go. After the revolution, people get all the lands with the cejidos and they call the Revolución Agraria. That's how they call it. Because people was fighting in Tuito and all nationwide for land because they get tired of people to treat them bad because they don't pay. They give you enough food, or sometimes not enough, just to survive and keep working with them.
Yeah.
So really, they got better after those days. But now on,
It's kind of like the railroad barons in the north.
yeah, exactly. Or like I hear histories on Alabama, Mississippi, they bring slaves from Africa and Costa Rica, some other places, and put them to work every day. They didn't get paid. They just get food.
Yeah, these were indentured servants, so to speak.
Yeah.
They basically worked, got paid, and then turned around and paid their employer.
Yeah.
Interesting. So this is one of the reasons why the revolution actually happened.
Yes.
And
the main reason.
and there was at that time all these big landowners, and the revolutionaries back then were.
Well, back then was revolution. It was Emiliano Zapata, one of the knownest guys.
Yeah.
Pancho Villa, Francisco Javier Mina. People I can remember it all right now, but it's many of those.
You just go up and down the streets in Puerto Vallarta. You can name them all right there.
Oh,
Madero
I mean,
and
you can see every single restaurant. Most of the restaurants, 90% of the restaurants, Mexican restaurants, have a picture hanging on the wall, either Pancho Villa or Emiliano Zapata.
Yeah.
They're very known here, very heroes.
Sure, they're beloved heroes.
Oh, yeah.
Because they freed the slaves, for goodness sake, right?
Unfortunately, yeah, they freed the slaves.
Yeah.
Right now, Tuito is very known because they're still making raicilla. That's what they've been growing for a long time. Raicilla, cheese, and panela.
Uh-huh.
It's the most popular here. If you go a little bit north from Tuito, north from Mayto, going to Chimo, Corrales, Pisota, they grow up the palm trees they call oil coconuts. It's a coconut like this, but it's all
about 2 inches
oily.
long.
Yeah, 2 inches long. They make cream, soap, and perfume for people. They keep doing that. The coffee and cacao. They keep doing that.
Uh-huh. So those are the main industries in El Tuito.
In El Tuito, yes.
Okay, so let's go back again. Let's do a little bit of asking you questions about where you would go to eat, let's say, in El Tuito.
And El Tuito, I like to go to eat at Valle Azul, which is on the main street close to the plaza. And right in the plaza across the city hall is another restaurant called El Patio de Mario. One in the Highway 200 and the taxi stand, they call El Valle. It's another restaurant called El Valle. It's very nice food. For me, it's one of the best because they have variety of food. And they have the style of the old-fashioned way like my grandmother cooked, you know. They didn't lose that tradition. They still cook in that way. Even they make tortillas, handmade tortillas. The old-fashioned way, they use a little machine to push it like a little press. Put a big comal. It's interesting because they didn't lose that. You go to other restaurants, they lost that family tradition.
Right.
How to make the tortillas. They buy it in the tortilla factory. There's not the good as handmade. Or at least we taste it differently, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe for you, it's a gringo or whatever coming from other country. You probably don't know the difference because we feel that tradition when you eat one of those tortillas.
Yeah.
You really feel, oh man, this is good. If you buy one of those factory tortillas, like you don't feel the same hungry.
You can taste it.
You can taste it.
You definitely
and feel
can
it.
taste
You
a
remember your
handmade
mom.
tortilla.
You remember your mom, your grandmother, when she used to make us, they call burritos. She grab a tortilla just coming out from the comal and grab it like this with a little bit of water and put salt on it. He make you ice and like a donkey, you know. That's why we call burritos. We call a donkey made out of a hot tortilla. It was good. She gave you one glass of milk. It's still hot because it's warm from the cow. He gave us one of those or two and one glass of milk. And that was our breakfast.
Wow.
That's it. And then lunch hour, he gave us a bowl of beans with cheese and a glass of water. That was for lunch. Sometimes we eat meat, sometimes not, but we always eat dry fish, always.
Yeah, dried fish
Dried
because
fish.
you could always preserve it.
Yeah.
And it was readily available, right?
Yeah.
You walk out your front door and throw
And
a little
you
line
catch
in,
it,
and
yeah.
you catch it and bring it in.
Yeah.
That is so cool, man.
Yeah.
That is so down to earth, I gotta say. All right, so there's, I think I was told there's like 12 taxi cabs in El Tuito. So how does that work out for you? You work all day? How do you work?
I work from 6 or 7 in the morning until 12 p.m. If they call me anytime I wake up and I'll go to do the service because it's what I give my phone number. It says 24 hours because during the day you're busy. It's, back and forward. But after 9 o'clock, since it's a small town, you don't have a lot of movement because it's not big hotels, not a big discos or places to stay open 24 hours like Vallarta. At 9:30, people go to sleep. Next day go to work. Maybe 80% of the people who live in Tuito, they go to work to different areas north of Tuito, like hotels, restaurants, and the rest of the other 20% of the people work in the ranches around Tuito, making raicilla or making cheese, and working in the fields, growing some corn or cleaning their places, preparing the land for next year, things like that. But it's because small town is what happened. All the people go away to work and make living because it's not enough work for all the people. Even if it's a small town, it's only a 3,500 people population. It's a small town. They don't have a lot of work to all the people.
Yeah.
You see, it's a local store where they give you a job. Like my wife right now is working in one of them. They call it Mexicano. It's one of the biggest stores in Tuito, where you found most everything that you need for groceries. It's the grocery stores. It's one of the biggest one in Tuito, so they give you a few words for the people who lives there. And after that, in this season, it's the ferry going on. So a lot of it's very traditional because they've been coming year after year, starting today, 5 of January, and stay there for 10 days, 10 or 9 days. So all the people come and shopping. So all the people who have those places, they sell things and they hire people. They call palenques, cockfights in the night. Every day after the parade coming up, people dressing as an Indian, the traditional way. After 9 o'clock, they have a free dance for everybody in the square, right in downtown of Tuito. And that's every day. And 11 and 12 of January, they have the bull riding, and they have a big band and big dance for all the people in town.
Wow.
It's very nice.
That must be something.
It lasts all night. Sometimes I work all day and all night because it's a lot of people asking for our service.
Yeah, well, because they're drinking raicilla. They don't want to drive.
And there's a traditional beverage they call calientes. It's a milk, a natural milk from the cow. They heat it up. They put cinnamon on and choco milk, and they mix it on the blender, and they serve you very hot with a little bit of alcohol. That's traditional. And they have another one they call cántaros. There is a cup made out of mug. They serve you raicilla and canela. Canela is boiled with water, and they put alcohol or raicilla. And with 2 or 3, you passed out.
I was going to say, wow, it must whack a wallop.
Yeah, that's very strong. Raicilla is very strong. It's a natural. It's a really you can say.
Well, it's native to your
native. Yeah,
area.
they do it by hand. Everything is handcraft. Made.
Yeah.
They didn't use any equipment. It had to be a regular process. Well, it's a long process because a good agave takes 7 years to grow. After that, they cut them off. They call quimar. This is the word they use to cut all the leaves. They cut it off all the leaves, and then they cut them in 4 pieces, put them in the sun for 8 days to get all the properties. And when you put them on the sun to rest for 8 days, the sugar comes more sweet. So after they put them on they make an oven full of rocks. They put fire on the rocks. When the rocks are very hot, they dump all the agave inside.
Mm-hmm.
They cook it. So after they cook the thing, they get them out. They mill it with a axle, but the axle has to be made out of wood because if they touch the metal, that will kill the taste of the agave. Has to be cut out with a axle, but has to be made of wood. It's very heavy, or muscle, big wood muscle to slice and make it like mill it.
Yeah.
And then they put water on it and a big copper tank, and they left it there for 15 days. When they start the process of like boiling or fermented, is when they start cooking it. They start cooking it, and the drop it's like the still water, the same process but with a raicilla. And it's 54% proof alcohol. Yeah, and it's natural. No chemicals at all. No other process where they didn't use any metal the only metal they use is a copper tank to do the fermentation process.
Well,
and some people want to make more raicilla or more product volume, and they all adulterate the process. They put alcohol on the raicilla, but they kill the taste of the good raicilla because alcohol is made out of sugar, cane. So the sugar from the agave is kind of sour. You feel it when you drink it. You feel it on your throat. It's kind of sour, and sugar from cane is very sweet. You feel the taste, so it didn't equalize.
Yeah.
Sugar cane and sugar of agave is not the same, so they kill the real taste of the good raicilla.
Right. So when they're mixing it and they're kind of cutting it, so to speak.
Yeah, it's fake.
It's
For
not
me,
good.
it's fake.
Well, you can
Not
taste
good.
it right away.
Yeah,
I'm sure
right
you
up-
can.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I know that because I have a familiar who makes that and teach me all the process.
Yeah.
Sometimes I help them to cook the raicilla, so I taste a good raicilla. So when people sell raicilla, say this is not raicilla, man. This is adulterated. No, it's not true. No, you cannot tell me that because I have one bottle all the time. All the time I have a bottle of raicilla, and my trunk have a little bag. Always had a raicilla, the good one, and you can taste it. It's sweet, and you can feel in your throat the sour of the agave. Feel the sweet of the sugar when you drink it because it's not very. It's hot, but not like the tequila. The tequila, you drink it and you feel the alcohol only.
Yeah.
The raicilla, you taste it and you feel the flavor of the agave. Very amargo
Very
here and the very different. So I know,
Yeah.
and I know all the processes why they cannot sell me a good raicilla.
You cannot pull the wool
No.
over your eyes, Javier. All right, so in El Tuito, what are there things to do in El Tuito?
Well, really, there's not many things to do or to see after you eat.
Okay. Yeah, after
You
eat at
can
one of
go,
those nice
yeah,
places.
you can go and see the galleries, like a Copelia gallery. You can go and see the city hall inside, all the painting. It's inside of the city hall. There's the history of Mexico in paint. And you can see the plaza and see how they make the cheese, or go around Tuito and see they call the ovens where they make the raicilla. There's a few things to see.
So you were telling me that there really aren't any tour companies, in
Tuito,
El
no.
Tuito or
No, it's not any tour companies.
you know,
All the tour companies, they from Vallarta, but I see a couple of them, and they tell you a lie.
yeah,
Because
well,
they don't know the
live here.
history. Yeah, they don't live here. Plus, they don't know the history of Tuito. They probably know some, but I hear a few. They're not what. It's not true what they're saying.
Right.
I know because I'm around. I'm a taxi driver. I hang around with a bunch of people who came in adventure trucks or tour people, and the guy is from Mexico City. Let's say Mexico City or Vallarta. He probably know Vallarta history, but he doesn't know the history of here because I've been living in this area, let's say 42 years, because I'll spend 7 years in the States.
That's why you learned your English. Eh?
Yeah. I went to school there. After work, I work from 8 to 5. I go to my house, eat, take a shower, go to school, night school in Mercedes, Texas. And we start going to school when the classes start. We start going 22 guys who all Mexicans who want to learn English. So from those 32 or 25, I can't remember exactly how many there were. We only stayed 3 in the next 2 months.
Oh,
So-
really? You lost everybody in 2
I
months?
love, yes. They don't want to go. They got so tired to go to school. They prefer to go and drink and play pool.
There you go. Well, you see what happened
So
there.
yeah, so I start with some other guy that besides that I was only 17, 18. They didn't sell me any beer or nothing. I wasn't even allowed to go in a bar. So I stayed home and started, all my homework and tried to remember all the words. And that's how I learned English to begin. And then I keep going. Year after year, I made my test for a GED. I failed 3 times. But in the 4th time, I passed my exam. So I have my GED diploma from the Texas school.
Wow.
And people don't believe me. They say, no, that's true.
That's
That's
fantastic.
true.
Look at you, man.
I didn't do a good grade. I'll tell you the truth. I passed with, I think with 75 or 78. No, 78. For me, it's not too good. But it's good because I do what I have to do,
Well, you completed it and you actually went out and learned English.
And I told, thanks to that piece of paper, you can say now there's just a piece of paper, it is. But thanks to that paper, give me more opportunities to go to better jobs. Even when I get my GED, I was getting paid back then $3.35 an hour because it was back in 84 or 85. Once I get my GED, they give me a raise in my work of $1 just because of that paper.
Huh.
And I didn't. My other brother, he don't want to go to school.
No? They're looking at you going,
Yeah, I
whoa,
said,
whoa, wait a
"Look."
minute.
He had more experience on the job, but I know how to communicate with people.
Yeah.
I know how to read. I know how to write. Sometimes I forget how to write because I didn't practice too much now. I forget some words, the letters, but I know once I start reading, come back to me.
Very good.
Yeah, so finally, but I was getting tired, to tell you the truth. Sometimes, oh man, again at school, I miss a couple of classes, couple of days because sometimes I was sick or I get late from work, and I missed classroom a couple of times. But most of the time, I was interested in getting that high school diploma or GED.
Well, and if you hadn't done that, you wouldn't be talking to people like me.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But yeah, like
Exactly.
tourists and stuff like that. And
Look, in my job, it's what one of the things happened to me that really decided me or pushed me to go to school. Back then, in those days, I can say the word yes, okay, and no. Fine. Maybe 5 words that I know in English. So these 2 engineers came to me, and they didn't know that I wasn't speaking English at all. But they told me, 2 guys that were there, they're electricians. They hear the conversation, and after these 2 engineers go, they say, "How come you said you didn't speak English?" "Oh, I don't speak English." "Well, everything they told you, you say yes. Everything when they say no, I answer right, but I just say fine, okay, no, it's okay, and yes." All those words. They asked me one thing, and I'll respond the right question, but I didn't know what they're saying. So when they went and came back, and they asked me, they tried to tell me, for those fans, big fans for a freezer company, a meat company, they have to turn the right clockwise so they can do the cooling system, the fan. So they have to go back to turn the wires to make it turn the right way. So when they came back, they found out that I didn't understand nothing what they saying, because those people explained, and they started laughing about me, and they surprised because I answered the right questions. So 3 or 4 years ago, after that happened, because I stayed working there, that company for 4 years, I think, from 84 to 89, 84, 88, sorry, 88. So I saw one of the engineers, and he had a nickname they called the Bird. And I told him, we're coming by the same space, and we stopped and said, hey, remember me? And he looked at me and said, yeah, you're the one that made us walk a lot that day. And said, well, now I went to school and I know everything. So he started laughing and said, oh man, I have 5 Mexican people working for me for 20 years. And they never learn. And said, how is possible that I know that I met you before? How is it possible that you learn in 4 years? And I was explaining the same to you. I went to school, take me some sacrifices because sometimes it was raining. That time I don't have a car. I use a bike. I go to work in the bike. I went to school in the bike. Sometimes it was freezing, ice in the street. It was very cold. And I didn't miss those days. I missed it because I was late in working or I was sick. It's the only time that I'll really miss school.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a history, you know.
It's a lot of hard work for sure.
And you see, when you explain people and talk about the range where you live and where you come from, you know, for me, I feel proud of myself because I can do things that I really want to do. That no matter what, I went through a lot of sacrifices to get what I want. No, but I was young too, you know. Once you get 50, you can start going down a little bit on you. And the things that you want to do, sometimes the age gets you very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I was 20 years old, 25, I can work day and night. I just sleep for an hour or two, eat good, and go back to work. Now I work 24 hours a day. The next day I always sleeping on the way, you know, I fall asleep sitting on my car, or the first thing that I have, I fall asleep. And that won't happen when you're young. It never happened to me.
Yeah.
So now you feel that the years, they didn't come free.
No.
They had to, how they call the ticket. You will pay the ticket.
Right. You pay your dues.
Yes, after the years.
Wow. All right. So you have quite a following. You have people that call you, and because they know that you know Mayto, and they know that you're in
definitely
Tuito, and they call you because you can be their kind of like their tour guide, kind of help them get to where they want to go and show them around.
Yes, because I know, like you see, I know everybody around here. I know different places that some other drivers don't know. And even some people told me, you should be a tour guide. And that day they give me a good tip because I'll take them, they do different places. And they love the places because there's more places to see around here. It's just part of this area, you know. It's too soon to be in all the places in 2 hours, let's say. But you stay here, let's say 3 days, I will take you to different places, the beautiful places that we have in this area, very remote area. Paradise that you never see, not even on pictures, man. Really.
Yeah.
And it's because I really love this area. I really feel good when people like the place, you know. That really makes me feel good on my job. I say, well, I'm doing a good job. They like it. And I have a few people, maybe, let's say the number, I'm not sure, maybe 10 people, they come and look for me. Even if it's another taxi driver around, they don't want to go with him because they know me, that I will take care of them. I'll take them some places, I'll take them to eat good places, I'll take them to eat some coconuts, raicilla, different places that I know they're probably gonna like.
There's no doubt about that. In fact,
Yeah.
we just left Mayto, and he's out there, and he's showing me where the old pier was, where the Spanish boats from the Philippines would steamships would come pulling up here and drop off the goods for the mines. And he's showing me where the old pier was there, and he is just so knowledgeable because he grew up there, you guys. So when people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that? Do they? You got a phone number for them? Yes.
Yes, I have my phone number is 322 118 5983. I work every time they call me. I never turn off my phone unless I'm outside. Like right now, I will send you to the voicemail. But other than that, I'll be there for anybody 24 hours a day if they call me.
Okay, and I'm going to have that in the show notes for this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. So make sure you check out the show notes. I'll have his phone number if you weren't able to catch that. They'll be right there. And I'm going to also have his email account, so you'll be able to get in touch with him there as well. And, you know, if you are going to be coming to El Tuito and you want to go to one of these beach towns not too far from there, you're going to need to get a taxi ride because there's no bus, there's no Uber out here. There's 12 taxi drivers here, and the one that you should be using is going to be Javier here, because Javier is going to not only be your taxi driver, but he's going to give you a tour.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know all this area for 40 years. Because when I was 9 or 10, I was playing around. And my first 10 years, I didn't do nothing. Just go to school and play. But after that, I mean, all my life been working. But once you start working in something serious, you take it serious. You take it serious when you really got your own money.
Yeah.
That's when you really take.
And when you got your family.
Yes.
And you got a family to take care of, then you know it's serious. It's big. It's real business.
Exactly.
Well, Javier, I want to thank you very much for talking with me.
Oh, thank you.
And I want to thank you for letting me introduce you to my audience.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And be welcome. Everybody who wants to come. We're going to be here for you guys. So take care.
All right. Thanks again. All right. How'd you like that? Javier, you're an amazing guy. Now, as you guys can see, Javier speaks English really, really well, and his rates are very reasonable. But before we get to that, let's finish the story and finish this trip. So the last bus out of El Tuito is at 5:30 in the afternoon. I don't remember if I told you in the last episode if it was 5:30 or 6:30, but I'm telling you right now because I just got off the phone with Javier, and he told me that the last bus out of El Tuito is 5:30 in the afternoon. The first bus that shows up at the bus stop in El Tuito, he tells me, is at 7:30 in the morning. And then every half hour throughout the day, buses come and go. So anyway, Javier looks at his watch, and he asks the people that are sitting at the bus stop if the last bus has come, and they said no. So he lets me out there at the town center, and I pay him. And I look around at my watch, and I got 15 minutes till the bus gets there. So I walk around the corner, buy a couple of orange drinks, sit back down at the bus stop. And all at once, the bells began to ring at the church, which I was sitting very close to. And then fireworks began to explode. I'm not talking about the colorful ones because it's still daylight out there. I'm talking about the ones that make the big boom sounds. So I caught it on tape. So let's listen and see what it sounds like. Now, if I hadn't had that discussion earlier in the day with Maria, I would have wondered what was going on here. But it was that celebration, that New Year's celebration that they do in Puerto Vallarta, just a week later. Now, some time passed still, and there was no bus, and Javier shows up, and he motions for me to get back in the taxi. Yeah, he says to me that it looks like they rerouted the bus due to the celebration, so let's get to the main road, and you can catch the bus there. So we drove out to Highway 200, and he dropped me over at the bus stop right outside of town, where he said that there's going to be a bus coming from Manzanillo or from Barrio de Navidad, Malacca area there. He says, so take that bus to Puerto Vallarta. So I thanked Javier, my good luck charm, Javier, and I waited for the bus. I wasn't ready for cooler weather at the time, and it started to get dark, and it started to get cooler. Waiting for that bus. Now, just as a note, you guys, it does get cool, just like Maria said, up in El Tuito at night. I asked a local shopkeeper if I could use his bathroom, and that was so good. Anyway, on the way out of the restroom, I managed to whack the top of my head on a low ceiling. So just a word of advice, always check for head clearance in some of these places that you go in. The building codes are a little different in Mexico than they are in the States. But I was grateful, at least for that pee stop, I got to tell you. Better than a boot to the head, I guess. Anyway, 15 more minutes passed, and the Manzanillo bus comes pulling up. It's a nicer bus than the Botanical Garden bus, the El Tuito bus. And I'm not sure how much it costs. I handed the driver 35 pesos, and he looked at it, and he looked at me, and put it away, and didn't give me any change, and didn't ask me for anything back. So I'm guessing that was going to be okay, but who knows? It was a crowded bus. I managed to find a comfortable spot to sit. And it was pretty dark, and the bus ride was nice and quiet and comfortable. And once again, about an hour, the seat was stuck in the recline position, so I didn't have to apologize to the person behind me. That was good. And an hour later, we pulled into the south side of Puerto Vallarta, and a whole bunch of us got off the bus. And that was it, my friends. That was the day trip to El Tuito and to Mayto. Now, let's also remember a couple of quick things here. The last bus out of El Tuito is at 5:30, and if you miss that bus, get out there to Highway 200, wait at the bus stop for the Manzanillo bus or the bus coming from Barrio de Navidad, Malacca. They come once every hour, according to Javier, until 9 o'clock in the evening. So if you miss that bus in El Tuito, you got till 9 o'clock to catch a bus into Puerto Vallarta. And after that, you're going to have to either hire a taxi cab, or you're going to have to stay the night in El Tuito or whatever. Maybe over at La Joya de Tuito, who knows? Anyway, or maybe even at one of Maria's cabins. You never know. But whatever you choose, I should tell you that a day trip to El Tuito should be on your list of things to do when you're in Puerto Vallarta. You can have a great adventure in one day, or make it 2 or 3 days if you like. Remember that Javier said that he can arrange all kinds of different kinds of tours for you, so you might want to reach out to him and get an idea of what he can do for you, so that he can be your guide to some of these really great deserted beaches that he was talking about, and maybe even your guide to some of the best raicilla, some of the better restaurants. It sounds like Javier is your man. Let me give you some prices that he charges. The fare from El Tuito to Mayto and Tehuamixtle is 500 pesos each way from El Tuito to Mayto and then back. So that's 1,000 pesos round trip, approximately $28 US each way, about $56 round trip. Very fair. Once again, it takes 45 minutes to an hour to drive that road. And he'll wait for you for 1 whole hour, if you like, for no extra charge. So if you want him to take you over to Mayto and wait around for 15 minutes if you just want to hang out for a few minutes and maybe take you over to Tehuamixtle for a few minutes, he'll wait for you for an hour. If he has to wait longer, each hour it's going to cost you about 200 pesos. So for every hour that he waits, is going to cost you about $10 US for him to wait for you. Once again, not bad. Now, to contact Javier, I have his phone number in the show notes for this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. You go to www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. Go to this episode, Road from El Tuito to Mayto, and get Javier's phone number and instructions on how to call him from the United States or from Canada or from Mexico for that matter. And I also have his email. Now, he is working on his email, and I'm not going to give it to you right now. I will either have it in my show notes or I will tell you what it is in the next episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. But you can call him. Go to my show notes once again, and I have directions on how to do it properly from your cell phone to his cell phone. It's a little tricky, but I have proper directions to do it. And then you can just set up yourself a ride to Mayto and just get him to figure out a good tour for you guys. And I want to thank Maria Santander, who made sure that Javier and I hooked up on the phone. Maria, you are the best. And, well, that should do it for this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. Next week, stay tuned for more on-the-ground reports from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, with travel tips, great restaurant and excursion ideas, and more. But until then, remember that this is an interactive show where I depend on your questions and suggestions about all things Puerto Vallarta. If you think of something that I should be talking about, please reach out to me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending us your message. And remember, if you're considering booking any type of tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, you must go to vallartainfo.com, that's JR's website, and reserve your tour through him right from his website. Remember the value for value proposition I talk about. It's his experience and on-the-ground knowledge of everything Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that you would do anyway. You're just doing it through him as a way of saying thank you. Thanks, JR, for being our guide. It costs no more than if you're going to be using someone else, so just do it, really. And when you do take one of those tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or didn't like about the tour. Again, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending off a message. And don't forget, he's got his maps, his DIY tours, his happy hour board, all kinds of stuff. And I've got links to all of those in my show notes. And once again, if you like this podcast, please take the time and subscribe and give me a good review on iTunes if you would. That way we can get the word out to more and more people about the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And remember, I made it easy for you to do that with every episode I create. Go to my website and check out links, places that we talk about, interesting pictures, and more right there in the blog posts that I create for each and every episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. So thanks again to Javier, my buddy in El Tuito. Call him or look for the email in the next show. Check out his contact info in the show notes for this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. Thank you again to Maria Jose Zaria Alcala from the Belmar Hotel for those great photographs of Coffee Fest, Puerto Vallarta. And thank you again, Maria, for all that you did for me, Maria Santander and Maria Zaria, for all that you did for me. I really, really appreciate it. I'm going to be seeing all of you pretty soon in Puerto Vallarta, that's for sure. And thanks to all of you for listening all the way through this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. This is Barry Kessler signing off with a wish for you to slow down, be kind, and live the Vallarta lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de amor junto al mar. playa. Me encuentro junto al río cuando todo está en calma. Pronto cae la noche, me brillas Puerto Vallarta.